Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Let's go, boys. Let's go. It's March in the National Football League. We are 1 week away from everything exploding. Player movement. So on Monday of next week, and I believe is it 3 o'clock? What time exactly next Monday? But next Monday, you can negotiate contracts. So Kirk Cousins can actually be on the phone with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he can sign a contract with the Vikings right now.
Right.
But it's going to get really, really wild a week from today in the NFL offseason, boys.
Next Monday and Tuesdays, all of these signings will break, but they're not official. They're not official. And then
sometimes things change. They're like, oh, we thought we had a deal, but we can't sign until Wednesday.
And then on Wednesday, but I would say this for Kirk, whatever started in Indy might be culminated next Monday. How about that?
Yes. And technically you're not supposed to start anything in Indianapolis, and we'll hear from Kevin O'Connell here shortly, boys. But real quick, before we dive in today to Kirk Watch 2024. Kirk Watch 2024. So on Friday last week, tickets became available for the third annual Purple Daily Draft Party at the Fillmore in Minneapolis. That's Thursday, April 25th at the Fillmore. And wow, you guys responded in a crazy way on Friday and over the weekend. Only 90 tickets remain. So the VIP is sold out. We are working on potentially opening up a select few more VIP seats. We'll keep you posted this month. 90 general admission tickets remain. And those general admission tickets are free, by the way. scorenorth.com/party. scorenorth.com/party. We expect those 90 to be gone before the end of the day here on Monday, which means we will have filled the Fillmore a month and a half in advance.
Phil will have filled the Fillmore. Say that fast.
Judd will... No, we got to find a word.
There's no good way to do that. Phil will have filled the Fillmore is the best that we can possibly do. I like it.
But if you want one of those last few remaining general admission tickets, go to scorenorth.com/party. And thank you guys for just the incredible response to this as we took a step up in venue size and you guys responded very favorably. So we appreciate that.
You guys are awesome. Absolutely. And who knows, next year we could kick the Vikings out of US Bank Stadium. Who knows?
US Bank Stadium.
Who knows? Hey, Vikings, why don't you take your little party somewhere else, huh?
Purple Daily's in town here.
Purple
okay,
Daily needs US
bunch
Bank
of Kirk haters. So, okay, we have a number of things to go through for Kirk Watch 2024. Various reports. Let's start with Kevin O'Connell. I can fire this here, Dex. This is Kevin O'Connell a few days after. So we played a clip from the Tuesday press conference, or from the Florio appearance on Tuesday last week, in which he was pretty chill, pretty excited. You know, hey, I know Kirk's going to be going through his process, but he sounded really optimistic. Do you feel like KOC changed his tune a few days later when Rich Eisen on NFL Network asked him this?
Where do things stand in your conversations with Kirk, with the new league year coming up in about 10 days?
Yeah, I think, the Combine just kind of gave everybody else an opportunity, even whether they're supposed to be or not, to maybe have some conversations. But I've been having kind of the dialogue that you have with a player like Kirk Cousins, the relationship we've built up over a long period of time. I know Kirk, where he's at in this whole process. He's earned the right to be a free agent, and he's played really good football. I think he's 18-7, whatever his record is since I arrived in Minnesota, coaching him, and I've had a blast coaching him. His fit in our offense, where we've kind of taken our version of the offense to, with guys like Jordan and Justin and TJ. I know Kirk's going to go through a full process. He's a process guy, and hopefully we continue to be a strong part in that process, and we figure out a way to keep him a Minnesota Viking. But my expectation is we're not going to be the only ones that would like Kirk Cousins to be the quarterback of our team in 2024.
How much to unpack there, you guys? Just an incredible amount. Now the only common thing that I will say with Florio that KOC talked about on, I think that was on Tuesday, and what we heard on Saturday was, in both cases he did say, and he's not wrong, Kirk deserves the right to be a free agent. Like Kirk deserves the right to explore. But I felt the Florio tone was much more upbeat. This to me, there's just so many potential takeaways, including, again, KOC wants him back, but can't you sort of hear the I'm talking to him as I would to Kirk in what Kevin is saying, but you can sort of tell there's the business side has come into play. So like Kwesi and the guys have drawn a line with Kirk. I love Kirk, but I didn't take the tampering thing like as a slight at teams for doing it. I took it as a reality check for KOC to realize that there are teams that are probably going to be willing to pay Kirk more than the Vikings. So to me, that was the first time I've heard KOC sound at least kind of resigned to the fact there's a very good chance Kirk doesn't return.
Well, he's accusing the league of tampering, right? And
he is, but I think he's
Falcons.
But I think because it's done by every single team, I don't think he's upset about it so much as he is basically resigned to the market is starting to show itself. Yep. And the market's not necessarily favorable to Kirk Cousins being back here.
And the report, of course, from we did Kirk Watch on Friday, and the Falcons steam really picked up late in the week last week, where there was the report about, it was from the local TV guy, Klein. Is it David Klein? Can't remember his first name, but the local ABC affiliate in Atlanta saying,
"Yep,
hey, I'm hearing from people not inside the building, but agents and other people around the league that ownership has told the front office in Atlanta, spend whatever you need to spend to get Kirk Cousins in here." And it would just kind of seem that and there's other reporters that have kind of independently tied Atlanta to Kirk Cousins, that's probably what happened last week. Couple bourbons at the bar in the hotel lobby or at St. Elmo, right? A little shrimp cocktail with your spicy horseradish sauce. And hey, we can't talk official numbers, but what do you think of our guy Kirk? Huh?
Slide the piece of paper.
Yeah, on a cocktail napkin.
Just slide the piece of paper.
This will dissolve in 10 seconds.
Excuse me, waitress. Can I get a cocktail napkin? Bang. Yeah, no, you're right.
Listening to Kevin talk too, it kind of feels like, okay, both parties, like this is a solid relationship, right? We're good, right? And she's saying, we're good. Just based on logistics and it's just the way that my life is right now. Let's keep in touch, but I really want to explore a couple other options. But you're still my number one, right? And Kevin is like, okay, yeah. Just you go explore. You totally deserve the right to explore other relationships. But let's at least text every night, right? We can still maybe FaceTime once in a while. It almost kind of feels like Kirk is the one that's slow breaking up with the Vikings in this case, right? Just based on the way dialogue has gone the last week or so.
I think he's breaking up with O'Connell. I think the Vikings, I think the business side of things, the football operations, Kwesi and company, look, they could keep him. They clearly have some type of line drawn, and I don't know if it's, in the coming days, movable. I don't know if it moved already, and Kirk still said no. But I think he's breaking up with O'Connell because I think the Vikings as a football operations are saying this is what we can do for you, and so now Kirk's like, no, remember, go back to, and this is a reminder: everything Kirk does is done with intent. Go back to what Kirk said about at his season-ending press conference at TCL when he talked about it's not about the money, it's about what the money means. It's which is guarantees. Which is years.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the fact a year ago, March, the report is that Kirk actually came down on his price, but wanted guarantees through 2025. And the Vikings are like, no, we can't, which I respect from the Vikings. But so, yeah, I feel this is more of a breakup between Kevin and Kirk's breaking up with Kevin. But the Vikings, but the parents have basically said to Kevin, hey, this is all we can do. Like, if Sally wants to go to the best steakhouse for your date, sorry about that. You're going to Red Lobster. Nothing wrong with that. And she's like, well, I really like you, dude, but I want to go to the
what it is? Kwesi doesn't believe in marriage. Kwesi doesn't believe in marriage. And Kirk is saying, listen, based on my values and based on what I want in life, I want you to put a ring on it. And Kwesi said, I can't give you that. I can't give you that.
I like it.
I like dating you, but I can't put a ring on that thing. Dan Graziano chimes in here. So we're going to pull from so you heard from Kevin O'Connell, but let's pull from some of the top NFL plugged in insiders here too. So Dan Graziano said, the sense I'm getting is Minnesota still wants Kirk Cousins to return, but Cousins has a very specific idea in mind for what he wants in a new contract, and the Vikings so far have not made an offer that matches it. The ball might be in the team's court at this point. Cousins and his family like Minnesota and would be happy to stay and finish his career there. But it doesn't sound like he's willing to offer the team a hometown discount. You brought this up last week, though. The hometown discount thing is funny because Atlanta is actually more of a hometown, family, right? Everything.
Yes, he's not from here.
Than Minnesota. I expect the Falcons to make a strong pursuit. I have been told by multiple sources this week that signing Kirk Cousins, not trading for Justin Fields, is the Falcons' top quarterback solution, assuming Cousins makes it to free agency. Juicy.
Yeah. And this is where if you ask any GM, and I understand the price is different because Justin Fields is going to make $6 million, I believe, next year, something very, very, very small. And then you had the 5th-year option. So you have a little bit of buildup for you'd have to maybe pay him if he becomes your franchise quarterback, where you're obviously going to be paying Kirk Cousins a lot of money. But it's no secret, Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. That's clear. So if you're doing a pecking order and top priority, Kirk Cousins better be your number one option. And if that doesn't work out, you can always pivot to Justin Fields, who would be, your safety bet or your easy one that you're trying to figure out that you'd like to get. You know how people say in breakups like, oh, we're still really good friends, which, by the way, I have never believed once in my life when people tell me, oh, but we're still really good friends. BS. Like, you guys are not good friends anymore. You're not speaking anymore. You're just
trying not to make someone feel terrible, right?
Which is, hey, I guess that's courteous and kind. But, it does feel like Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins are trying to remain good friends, which, by the way, obviously they legitimately are in real life, as we've heard about. But that whole comment of, we're still trying to be friends or we're still good friends, to me, that is BS. I think Kevin and Kirk are trying their absolute best to be, but eventually a breakup has to happen. You have to move on.
Well, and I think O'Connell's being told by his parents no, and he's like, but I really want to keep Kirk, and they're like, no, sorry about that. But you know what happened here too? This is the greatest thing, because we saw again combine shenanigans, right? Because clearly somebody, my guess is Fields' agent, got to the insiders early last week and said, you should see what's going on behind the scenes. Falcons are all over my guy Justin. All over him.
He's celebrating in his kitchen.
And you know who you don't screw with? You don't screw with the manipulative master, Kirk Cousins, because his camp came along and they're like, oh, that's cute.
Oh, you think? Oh, you went on a date with the Falcons, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been dating the Falcons for 3 weeks now.
I just walked out of their apartment this morning. How about that, Sporto? Like that, but I loved it because they're through Wednesday, right? It was all this Justin Fields to the Falcons, and it's clear. And again, this all depends on who decides to leak what to the prominent insiders. So then the Cousins camp is like, bleep that. And so I believe this. I think the Fields thing now in retrospect was just because the Cousins people hadn't started to drop little hints in the ears of the folks that we're going through right now. I'm much more inclined to believe that Cousins is their target. They'll take Fields, but I don't think he's atop their list now, which we thought he was obviously last Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, here's more. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN.com. As one high-ranking executive with another team said, the feeling is that the Vikings want to extend Cousins, but won't live or die by that desire. It will have limits. And as one NFL executive put it, Atlanta and Cousins is probably one of the best overall free agent fits out there. But I keep going back to this line, and there's more here, by the way. We will get there's some really interesting reporting on if the Vikings don't get Cousins, what would their next step be? And we'll get to that. But I keep going back to this line here from Graziano. The sense I'm getting is Minnesota still wants Cousins to return. but Cousins has a very specific idea in mind for what he wants in a new contract. And the Vikings so far have not made an offer that matches it. So let's put into perspective what's happening here. Okay, let's cut through all the BS. Kirk Cousins is holding the Vikings over a barrel right now. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Vikings are offering something fair for a 36-year-old coming off an Achilles. It's probably something that they can get out from underneath after a year, right? Which seems reasonable. And Cousins is saying, because he is one of the greatest negotiators in the history of professional sports, he's saying, I need more guarantees. I need more security. I need a no-trade clause. I need higher average annual value, right? Like Kirk Cousins is holding the Vikings over a barrel. 36-year-old coming off an Achilles tendon injury.
Yeah.
9 years as a starting quarterback in the NFL. 1 playoff win.
Yep.
And I looked this up this morning here from our guy Dominic Clare on Twitter. He did the research on this. Kirk Cousins, 16-47 against teams over 500 in his career. So 9 years as a starter, and then a few starts here and there before that too.
Yep.
And he has a .254 winning percentage against winning teams in his career. And that profile of player is holding the Vikings over a barrel right now. Like, what are we? I was watching F1. You guys ever watch F1 racing on ESPN on the weekends?
No.
It's actually one of the few things I have not devoted any time to, and I'll just be honest, it's not something I really want to get into. But
Okay.
I understand why people do like it, though. Like, I completely get why people are super into it. It is really interesting.
I was watching it for like a half hour just because I'm not super into it either. But these cars are going 200 miles an hour on straightaways, whatever. It would be like a Toyota Camry holding an F1 racing team over a barrel. And then the F1 racing team's like, well, what do we do if we don't get this Camry? I don't know. Go get another car that drives fast. Like, people act like this is, oh my God. Oh, you got to be careful if you say goodbye to what? He 16-47 against winning teams, 1 playoff win in 9 years, and he's holding them over a barrel?
Well,
what are we doing here?
Though he's not necessarily. He's holding O'Connell, but the Vikings clearly, again, to their credit, have drawn some type of line here. So I think that we're done. I think we're done with the Vikings. I certainly hope giving a guy a ridiculous amount of guarantees. But you have to remember, Kirk's pride largely is based on these contracts. Like, his career is largely based. He has done things that no other quarterback has done at times financially. He goes for short-term contracts with guarantees, which is brilliant. So, like, he doesn't need, give me a 5-year contract and we'll void this and we'll. He basically says, you do the work, but here's what I really want. I want to be paid in 3 years. So I think what we're seeing here is the top brass of the Vikings saying, okay, that's cool. Here's what we'll give you. I think he'll probably leave. And I think it'll be the Falcons' problem now. But, I mean, let's appreciate what Kirk has done. It is genius. Kirk Cousins, in his career, has crafted with the record that you just talked about, and 1 playoff win, which is unbelievable. And by the way, a ready-made product here in 2018. It was an easy bake oven, baby. It was an easy bake oven. It was the easiest win of all time, and you didn't make the playoffs. But he has crafted contracts along with his agent, Mike McCartney, that are absolutely brilliant, genius, Hall of Fame contracts. He has, at a time I felt like his popularity was not waning because he's got his supporters, but certainly not off the charts. He was the one guy who not only was allowed the first documentary quarterback to follow him, but became the star and worked it brilliantly. Like, we liked him. It was like, oh my God, this guy is not who I thought.
But he seems like a really good guy and a really good dad.
But that's what I'm saying.
And he's a really good quarterback too, but he's not a franchise-changing, franchise-carrying quarterback. And that's what he's asking to be paid like.
But above all, as a personality, he is let's call a spade, a marvelous manipulator. He manipulates things to his favor. I mean, you don't get paid like he's being paid with the record that you just gave me unless you are marvelous at taking a situation and spinning it. And by the way, I predict a week from Wednesday when pen goes to paper, he's going to get exactly what he wants.
Well, and he, by the way, in terms of climbing career rankings, his next contract, assuming it's at least $60 million in guaranteed money, which
It will be,
right?
Yes, sir.
He will jump into the top 5 highest paid NFL players of all time.
Yeah.
History of the NFL. And obviously, there's inflation, and so like recent players are more highly paid than 10, 20, 50 years ago. But
Sure.
But he will become, if he signs at least a 2-year contract somewhere, he will become one of the 5 highest paid players in the history of the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
And there won't be a player on this list, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Matt Ryan is also in this mix. Matt Ryan never won a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan went to a Super Bowl, won an MVP. Matt Ryan is probably the closest comparison to Kirk, where, wait a second, we paid $300 million for what again? A good, solid quarterback for 12 to 15 years, but they did go to a Super Bowl. They had a 28-3 lead in a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, right? He's going to pass Ben Roethlisberger, multiple Super Bowls, Russell Wilson, multiple Super Bowls, Peyton Manning, multiple Super Bowls, and Eli Manning, multiple Super Bowls on this list, probably next Monday.
And he was a 4th-round pick. That's what I admire.
And that's great. That's awesome. He has maximized Kirk Cousins LLC.
Unbelievable. Right? Exactly right. Now it's time.
But I'm worried about Vikings LLC, not Kirk Cousins LLC. But
it feels like the Vikings from the top are doing, it feels like so far, the right things. Like
so far.
Well, if they cave, they're idiots. If they cave, they are absolute morons. And I will say this. You're about to get into stuff, and the behind-the-scenes draft stuff does sound like they are preparing for life after Kirk.
Well, let me ask you this. Before we get into there's some other interesting stuff here, life after Kirk related. Is there any scenario based on everything that's been reported to this point? It sounds like his price tag only continues to go up the further removed from the Achilles tendon injury, which is brilliant positioning by him and his agency, right? Go dance on stage, go put a video out of you dropping back to pass, like go do a bunch of interviews. It's all posturing and it's all brilliant.
Right.
Is there any scenario that you guys would be okay with the Viking, like a realistic scenario at this point? I don't want to hear, well, 1 year, 20 million. Well, that's not happening.
Right.
If the Falcons are involved, that's not happening. If the Raiders if Denver, right? Is there any scenario in which you guys would want Kirk Cousins back next Monday?
Well, no, because I can't paint, to go back to your question, I can't paint a scenario that is realistically palatable. So, yeah, like anything I would say to you right now, you'd come back at me and say, well, that's not my question, though, because your question is a realistic scenario from a guy who clearly has offers, or at least one that I probably wouldn't touch. No, I think it's done. I think it should be done.
I would do the 1 year, 35, 40 million. I would bring him back on the 1 year term of that figure. I would. I know the 20 to 25 is that's silly. That'd be silly. Why would you do that?
But 1 year that's the thing. It's like at this point,
taking 1 year. He'll leave you.
If you told me I can get him for 1 year at the $40 million, yeah, I would still take it. I would 100% take it. But the 2 years ironclad, no, I'm not interested in that at all.
Phil said a long time ago on this show, it's probably 6 months now, you said if he will come back because he wants to win. And I said, I don't think that's his end game. I think his end game is winning the contract. And I will go to my grave saying that. His end game was to win. And guess what? In his mind, he has hoisted multiple Lombardi trophies of negotiation. I don't think you're ever going to get him to say, let's do a 5-year contract, void that sucker after 3 years, bring cap hits down here, X amount of guarantees, not ridiculous. No, that's not how he operates.
Because that's kind of like the Vikings, it seems like reading between all the lines now, and the lines are getting much more clearer to read the further we get into this. This started a year ago. They had conversations. It reached an impasse at some stage during the summer. And the Vikings have been telling him for a year, we want you back, but we need to build this team back up.
Yeah.
When you signed here 6 years ago, the team was awesome, and it was ready to win now. And through some fault of Kirk's, some fault of coaching staff, some fault of whatever, they missed the playoffs with their widest window in 2018.
Right.
And so now they're telling him, hey man, like we want to keep doing this with you because we actually think you're better than you were 6 years ago because you've got more experience, you're more accurate, you put up crazy numbers, and but we need the team to be built back up here. So here's the terms that would work for us. And to Judd's point, he's saying, no, I need to win the negotiation, which is like, whatever, dude, like, you got a family to provide for. You've got generations of cousins that you want to provide for. That's fine. But he is prioritizing maximizing Kirk Cousins Incorporated over maximizing the Vikings' chance to win a Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. That's fair to say.
I think it's very fair to say, and I think the Falcons are going to bite. So good for you, dude.
So here's another team that has been tossed about on this show a couple times. This is from Ben Standig with The Athletic. He said, despite the tumultuous first stint, don't worry about whether Kirk Cousins would return to Washington. He's open to playing for the Commanders based on conversations with league sources in recent years. The money is not an issue. Even if a 2-year mostly guaranteed contract is around $80 million, the Commanders have a ton of cap space. Add void years to spread the cap charges, maybe go higher in 2024 considering the significant cap space that the Commanders have, and then a lower figure in 2025. Cousins would compete with Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott for the best quarterback in the NFC East and give the Commanders a very strong option. That's fascinating.
Well, and I think it makes some sense because, as we discussed a few weeks back, Daniel Snyder, who was a lunatic and owned that team, is gone. The coaching staff is all long gone. The players are long gone for the most part, right? He knows the area. I don't think he had, unless I missed this, like a problem with the fans there. Like I think he got criticized, but all quarterbacks do. And this would allow Washington to either trade back, or what if they stood pat and took Marvin Harrison Jr., pair him with Scary Terry, Declan's guy.
Love Scary Terry.
And now you've got quarterback, 2 receivers. Like, again, it's not hard. It's not hard to get to a place skill position wise where you could feel pretty good about yourself there. So I think the Falcons make sense. I think Washington makes sense. I think Denver makes sense, except for the fact that they're in such cap hell.
It'd be wild. I understand that the ownership has changed, but just with how he was treated there, and again, I know the whole overall happened. It'd be just a wild 180 to see him go back there. I mean, it's kind of like Phil, like CM Punk coming back to WWE. Like, really, this is all going to happen now? Like, you after everything that he burnt down, leaving out the door at WWE, but then things changed.
But you know what the big difference was, or the big similarity with each? Guess who was gone from the WWE when CM Punk came back?
Vince McMahon. Yeah.
Right.
Snyder
Daniel Snyder
is Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon.
And remember, the one thing with Kirk is, again, in Kirk's genius, one of the great businessmen of all time, he didn't burn bridges. He just left. Okay, see you, bye. Thanks. No bridges burned.
If this doesn't burn a bridge...
You like that? You like that?
No, I don't know what can. He literally, didn't he shout that in the general manager's face in the tunnel? After
he did that second. It was the reporter the first time.
The reporter he first did it with.
And then he did it to the GM. But again, the GM's long gone. You know, and so
exactly.
It makes some sense. I still think the Falcons make the most sense. But Washington, I think, could offensively think that they're actually putting themselves in a pretty good position if they took Marvin Harrison Jr. and paired him with Kirk in that offense.
So many dominoes to fall here. So that's your Kirk Watch 2024.
You like that? I say 1, 2, 3. You like that?
Might only be like a week left of.
Say, what are we going to do after Kirk leaves? Are we just going to fold up the show?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're actually. We keep promoting the draft party. Well, there's only like a week, maybe a week and a half left of the show. So I don't.
You like that? You like that?
Or we could change it to Cousins Daily and just follow him around.
We could. That'd be great. We could talk about the Falcons, talk about the Raiders, whoever. So there is a whole other section of reporting here on life after Cousins. If the Vikings don't get Cousins back, what could they look to do? And there's some interesting stuff here. But let's shout out our friends at Quick Trip, Judd Zolgad. What's happening at Quick Trip on this Monday, first Monday in March?
Glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you what's happening. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In this case, particularly dinner, we're talking fried chicken. We're talking chicken tenders from Quick Trip. Look right there. All of the delicious offerings. Roasted whole chicken. In fact, you know what? Put their chicken mano a mano with any of the competition, and Quick Trip is going to come out on top. Fried chicken bone-in. Hand-breaded, prepared fresh daily, 2 or 8-piece roasted whole chicken. Again, prepared fresh daily. Great for meal prep or easy dinners. Boneless wings. Ladies and gentlemen, Quick Trip, it's a place to stop to get gas, obviously. It's a place to stop to get snacks and pop. That's all great. But you know what else? It's a place to get dinner. So if it's a Monday, you're headed home, you're thinking to yourself, I'm pretty tired. I don't want to stop a lot of places. What am I going to eat? Quick Trip is the place for you. Prepared fresh daily, delicious chicken choices.
Amen. Amen. Hey, also a shout out to our new friends at Nicolay Law, the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. So they are local. They love being rooted in the local communities. They're proud to serve the communities they live in. You may have seen a Nicolay billboard, maybe 2 around town. Nicolay Law knows that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a stop. And those insurance companies don't really care about you. They just want to poke and prod and pressure you. They don't care if you get better. They don't care if your medical bills are piling up. But Nicolay Law does care. And they have seen every play the insurance companies have. They'll go the whole 9 yards to make sure that you get the compensation you deserve. So start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. And thanks to Nicolay Law for jumping on board here.
Thank you, Nicolay.
Thank you. So great look there, the shaved head, bearded look. You know, just a.
Yeah, I wonder where I've seen that before.
Oh, so he's got a much better version of it than I do, though.
Well, his beard's good.
Yeah,
That's a
he's put some
quality
time in.
beard.
It's pretty good. So, okay, life after Kirk Cousins. Let's start with Jeremy Fowler, former Vikings beat writer, now ESPN.com. He wrote this about Justin Fields. Chicago will need multiple teams in the fray to drive a market, and after asking around, I expect the Falcons, Steelers, Raiders, and the Vikings to be on the radar for Justin Fields, assuming, obviously, Kirk not
Right. The dominoes.
coming back. What do you think? This is people, I think, a Feedback Friday, every week somebody asks about Justin Fields, and we've mostly sort of poo-pooed it. This is the first time a credible NFL insider has, based on reporting and not speculation, linked Vikings and Justin Fields. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I think it's interesting for a couple of reasons. I think, as you just were talking about, it's pointed out in there that the Vikings actually in Fields' draft year tried to trade up to get him. Now, Chicago, I think, went up to 6. And the Vikings
Different
were
front office, too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's the Spielman. So, like, I don't know that I draw a line between, the Vikings were interested in Fields coming out of college, and now they are again, but it's a different GM, it's a different coach, completely different setup. Do I think they'd sniff around that one? Yes. Do I think it's plausible? No. I don't think the Bears, look, teams can be unafraid to make trades in the division. But are you telling me the Bears are going to send a quarterback who they don't hate? Like, they might get Caleb Williams, who was seen as this huge talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like Fields is Trubisky. I think that they're actually like him. Do I think the Bears are going to trade within the division when they probably are going to have multiple options of where to trade him? No. I think it's interesting that it's linked to the Vikings. Ultimately, if I were to put odds, I would say the odds of it actually happening if Kirk leaves are very, very slim.
It'd probably have to be the Vikings outbidding, right? So the Vikings would give up.
Yep.
Maybe they're the only team to offer a high second-round pick that everyone else is offering like a third or later or something, and the Vikings say, we'll give you the 42 for Justin Fields for essentially 2 years of Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And yeah, they would have to pay the tax, right? They'd have to pay the in the division tax, where I'm not saying the price would be completely the same, but I would imagine Ryan Poles would try to pry away a little extra from the Vikings since they're in the division than if you were to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers too. So again, not a bad contingency plan, just like the Falcons have Justin Fields as their backup plan to their starting quarterback position. But in general, I don't know. I would look elsewhere if I were the Vikings.
I mean, I have so many questions about Justin Fields. First of all, I don't know that he's accurate enough to command Kevin O'Connell's system.
Right.
Now, having a guy that can jump around and make plays, like, do I think Kevin O'Connell would be more beneficial to his career than what the Bears were giving him across 2 different systems these last 3 years? Yeah, I think if it was, hey, Justin Fields is the only option, will he be better as a Viking under Kevin O'Connell with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison than he was as a Bear? Yes, I do think he'd be better. But, like, he's not a guy that's going to sit back there in rhythm and dissect defenses in the way that a Kevin O'Connell system requires. So from that perspective, and then also, like, okay, he has a decent year, but he doesn't become a top 10 quarterback. Do you pay him? Now you're just in a weird position.
Right.
Are you going to pay him $30 or $40 million a year after that? So, I don't know. I'd rather just draft a quarterback, move up from 11, or take someone at 11 and start the clock over.
You know,
personally.
I think it's going to become, until the Kirk thing is resolved, or until the quarterback situation here is resolved completely, I think it's going to become very easy to tie quarterbacks to the Vikings. And so, like, I'm sure that Jeremy talks to, like, you know, executives and stuff, right? At the combine, and they're like, oh, Fields might be a fit there. And he's going to print that because he's told that by a credible source or executive. I think there's too many question marks here. And again, I don't see the Bears sending a quarterback that they fear might actually work out, especially with the right coach, to a division opponent.
Well,
It's
here's
just a
one
huge gamble.
Here's one more from Fowler. While Cousins is undoubtedly the top option should he leave Minnesota, Baker Mayfield is clearly the number 2 free agent passer. It wouldn't be a shock if the Vikings got involved with Baker Mayfield should Cousins leave. There was also a report about the Patriots maybe being interested in Baker Mayfield. That It's not a foregone conclusion that he just goes back to Tampa Bay. Now, Baker is 29 years old. PFF projects his contract to be 3 years, $90 million, $50 million guaranteed. So kind of a Geno Smith type contract. So less than Kirk would be making.
Yep.
And he was not as good as Kirk was in the first half before the Achilles injury, but he was 11th in expected points added. He threw for a career high 4,000 yards, bunch of touchdowns. He was tied for 6th in average depth of target too, so he was driving the ball down the field in that Tampa Bay system. And he has twice as many playoff wins as Kirk. He's got 2 playoff wins. Yeah.
All right. So I don't hate this one as much, but I think at the end of the day, if Kirk is going to leave, I'm exploring every option I can in the draft first. So, like, do I go out and sign Baker Mayfield? I don't know. That's a tough one. I really, I guess, just deep in my heart, my purple daily heart, I just want this team to find their answer at quarterback finally. I know they've missed before, but it's a different regime, it's a different coach. I'd really like to see them find a guy who can be their guy. And Baker's been up and down. I mean, he's played really well at times. He played great for Tampa Bay, but he's had bad, hell, he bounced from, and yes, it was a bad team, but he went from Cleveland to Carolina, which was terrible. They finally jettisoned him in season to the Rams. I think Baker Mayfield is more realistic than Justin Fields, but I still am much more interested in exploring all avenues of the draft before I commit to that, which is not possible because I guess if you're going to sign Baker, that's in March, but I'm just not a big fan of that.
It also feels like Baker Mayfield's the type of guy who just naturally plays a lot better with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, that's evident of what happened in college. We saw that when he went to the Rams. We saw that when he went to Tampa Bay. He plays better when people are really, really doubting him, right? And I know Carolina didn't go well, but no one would have played well with the Carolina Panthers as a starting quarterback. I also wonder if you were to do the succession plan, so whether it's bringing Kirk, whatever quarterback you sign in, Kirk or Baker Mayfield, and you still want to draft a QB. So let's say it's Penix in the second round. So let's say you bring in Baker or Kirk, and then you draft Michael Penix with your second round pick, or you trade it back into the first to grab your quarterback at the future. Which one are you better positioned for to have a succession plan in place with the guy that's leading the interim right now, Baker or Kirk
Well,
Cousins.
but I think Baker would have a huge problem with that bait and switch, right? Oh, I'm going to sign.
Yeah, no,
I
he
also
wants
don't
to
think
be-
you'd sign him to a 3-year, $90 million deal and then draft Michael. I think you'd be committing to Baker, kind of like you committed to Kirk 6 years ago. The difference being Kirk was top of the market price tag. Baker would not be. Baker would be like $20 million below top of the market. But yeah, what's your goal here? Is it to build is Baker, unless you think as a former top pick, like, man, there is potential for Baker to be a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the league. He just needs the right infrastructure for the first time. I'm still drafting a quarterback before I'm signing Baker for 3 years, $90 million.
I would far prefer to draft a quarterback, get a bridge type of guy, a true bridge guy, like a 3-year contract, not a bridge guy. Get a true bridge guy on a 1-year contract who I feel can play a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Minshew types, right? Like those guys can play, but they also sort of know their lot in life, as opposed to this, oh, let's go to this bin, let's go to that bin, let's try this, let's try that. I guess I'm sort of scarred because some of that feels very Vikings-like.
Yeah, it is. Baker Mayfield is the same bin that they've been in for
yeah.
a
They
long
spent
time.
the 90s there, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's
the Kirk Cousins bin. It's a very, very familiar bin. So that's kind of there's probably more where that came from, but that was the latest reporting on the Kirk Cousins and Vikings quarterback front from the last 72 hours at the NFL Combine. Before we say goodbye, we will hit you with a Purple Daily on draft. Declan and Miles and Tyler recapping the college prospects over the weekend, and a second episode of Purple Daily where we focus on some of the non-Kirk stuff. But there is a mock out here that's interesting. From Sam Farmer here from Yahoo
Sammy
Sports.
Farmer, I love Sam. Great guy.
Sammy Farmer from Yahoo Sports. Presented by our friends at Zero Res. I love a clean house. Many of you love a clean house, but are you actually doing the things you need to do to make your house? Are you just light dusting, light vacuuming? Well, Zero Res comes in here and they will deep clean your home, your carpets, your air ducts. Starting today with the Scorner Special, get 3 rooms Zero Resified, starting at just $119 and a free hallway, and take $75 off when you get those air ducts Zero Res clean. 952 Zero Res or ZeroResMinnesota.com. Say you want the Score North Special. Spell it forward or backwards. It spells the same. Zero Res. So Sam Farmer has the Bears taking Caleb Williams. The Commanders taking Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a new team on the clock at 3. The Atlanta Falcons have traded up.
Oh, Sammy, don't. Sammy, say it ain't so, Sam.
He has the Falcons taking Drake May with the number 3 overall pick, bumping the New England Patriots.
Interesting.
Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals at 4. Joe Alt, tackle, to the Chargers at 5. Roma Dunze, who put on a great showing and then stayed much later than he probably needed to do the 3-cone drill a million times.
He kept hitting the 3rd cone with his heel.
How about Kellen Mond throwing passes and hitting handoffs at the Combine?
How about that?
Got to make a living, Declan.
Hey,
Got to make a living.
Roma Dunze to the Giants at 6. Olu Fashanu, tackle, Penn State, to the Titans at 7. And then, was this another proposed? No, it's the trade from before. New England takes J.C. Latham, tackle, Alabama.
Okay.
Bears take Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. Jets take Brock Bowers, Georgia tight end. And the Minnesota Vikings with the 11th overall pick select Alabama edge rusher Dallas Turner.
I want a mock.
J.J. McCarthy goes 1 pick later to the Broncos at 12, by the way.
Sam, I love you. You're great. You're a Hall of Famer.
Here we go.
But did you watch the Combine? J.J. McCarthy right now has moved into the top 10.
I think it was Graziano on Greeny this morning on his radio show right before we jumped on. He said he's going at 5. He can see the Giants moving up and the Chargers trading back to go get J.J. McCarthy.
There's a big 4 right now, you guys.
It's
there
wild.
Used to be a big 3 before the Combine. Big 3. It's a big 4 now. It's a Mount Rushmore. I'm not
I
kidding.
want a mock.
Thor nailed it. I'm not joking. I'm coming here with
know you're
football.
not joking.
Thor nailed it.
Didn't know if you were going to keep talking.
On Thor's Day, the man nailed it. He deserves credit. He was exactly right. There's a big 4.
So there it is. All right, we got to go. We have more content to record and pump out for you. So thank you for supporting this 365-day-a-year madness that we call Purple Daily. The 4 Horsemen.
4 Horsemen.
J.J.
baby.
McCarthy is the 4th man. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Go find a quarterback that can help facilitate that, please.